I, like pretty much most of the internet in America, have been religiously refreshing every newsfeed there is about the Gabby Petito case. Now, I'm not going to be sitting here going into detail about it because there are plenty of resources out there for you to look at if you're interested in updates. However, Gabby Petito's case has kind of caused the American public to be faced with a very harsh reality, a reality that most people didn't want to be faced with. It's something that we've all been aware of, even if it is subconsciously, for a long time, but it's one of those sweep it under the rug because nobody really wants to think about it type issues. And in the most stripped back and basic way of explaining it, that issue is that if Gabby Petito had been a black man of the same age, an Indigenous girl, a trans woman, this story would be very different. She still would have gone through the same ordeal that she had, and yes, maybe her case would have been solved, but the public opinion of it would have been very different, and solving her case would have taken much longer than it currently is. And as much as a lot of people don't want to believe that, it is an absolute fact. This country has a serious problem when it comes to caring about missing Indigenous women, when it comes to caring about black murders, trans murders, any minority murders. If Gabby Petito had been a black woman, chances are they would have discovered that she was missing. Maybe the same 911 call would have been made, but the hashtags on Twitter would be filled with comments from people saying, well, maybe if she didn't have dreadlocks, things like this wouldn't be happening to her. Maybe if she wasn't hanging around with drug addicts, she wouldn't have to constantly fear for her life. Instead of saying, let's go find the person who is guilty of this crime, people would have instead been trying to find a reason to blame her for her own demise. And that, on top of the fact that at the same time that we're trying to make sense of the Gabby Petito case, there are a lot of minority people who are currently missing, who currently have active investigations into their murder underway, and nobody is talking about them. No one seems to care as much about them because they're not a cute, pretty little blonde white girl. And a lot of people online have been really frustrated about that. There have been countless black people, especially women, saying, listen, I know this case is serious and I'm glad that we're starting to slowly get answers, but why don't we show the same appreciation and the same care toward minority women that we are towards Gabby? And these people are being met with white people in their comment section saying, why are you making this about race? It isn't a race issue. You're just making it one, which yes, it actually absolutely is a race issue. It's clearly a race issue because there's a huge difference between the way that cases like Lavina Johnson's were looked into versus the way that JonBenet Ramsey's was looked into. Both of them are equally suspicious. Both of them deal with an unsolved case with someone who absolutely did not commit suicide. And the way that the general public has dealt with each of these cases has been completely different. A lot of people, when you say the name Lavina Johnson, they don't even know who she is. Not unless they happen to watch true crimers on YouTube. And even then, maybe not. Whereas when you hear JonBenet Ramsey, people are like, oh yeah, did you hear that, like, blah, 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 this thing happened and that update happened recently, even though her case is still kind of ongoing and still unsolved. We're still hearing theories to this day. We're still hearing updates to this day. In that case, people desperately want to solve it. Meanwhile, you have people like Lavina Johnson that are just thrown to the wayside. Nobody who is upset about the way that the general public has taken up Gabby's case as almost their own and done everything they possibly can to fund it, to solve it, to help in any way possible. No one is saying that there's anything inherently wrong with that. No one is saying that she doesn't deserve justice. No one is saying that her family doesn't deserve to find out what happened to someone that they love. And this is one of those annoying arguments I'm seeing over and over again in people's comment sections. No one who is trying to state the absolute fact that people only care about her case because she's a pretty white girl, no one is saying that they hope no evidence is found. No one is saying that they hope this never gets solved and that just because she's a white girl, screw her, who cares about what happened to her. Literally no one's saying that. The reason they're upset right now is because right at this second, this is a recent article from like a few days ago, right at this very moment, as we are finding out more and more about Gabby's case and learning more and more updates, there are 710 Indigenous people, mostly girls, who were reported missing over the past decade in Wyoming, the same state where Gabby Petito reportedly disappeared. As soon as she disappeared, everyone was on this case. Everyone was pooling their resources to try to help. Meanwhile, 710 Indigenous people, mostly girls, according to Insider, are out there someplace, and nobody cares. No one's doing anything to help. And it's not like none of them are public. Yes, I understand maybe some of them are just unknown, but there are people like Selena Not Afraid that all you literally have to do is look up missing Indigenous women and she will pop up. There are ways you can use the internet and Google to very easily find these cases of missing Indigenous women and children, and people are choosing not to. People are choosing not to cover these cases. Same with Black trans women. That's a huge issue, and it has been for a long time. It's very well known because, again, all it takes is a quick Google search and you can easily find an endless list of them. All you have to do is go on TikTok, on Tumblr, and people are constantly listing their names as people who have been victims of violent crimes. Yet mainstream news doesn't share anything about them. Yet people who do things like true crime don't share their stories. And this is from last year. This is from, I believe, February of last year. 230,000 people of color reported missing in the U.S. These Black women are doing something about it. Hashtag for the culture. Now, as wonderful as it is that there's a group of women who are out here fighting to try to help these people, that shouldn't be on them. It shouldn't be their responsibility to save their own on their own. Us, people who are me-colored, we have a louder voice than they do, and we need to be doing more to help them. It shouldn't take someone who looks like Gabby Petito to make people say, oh, we need to do something to help in this case. We should do that for everyone, especially people from minority groups, because some of them who are disenfranchised, they're not going to be able to afford to get the help they deserve, to get the lawyers that they're going to need. We need to care about more than just the pretty white girls who go missing from now on. And once again, I'm not saying that people shouldn't care about Gabby. I'm just saying we need to show the same care we have for her towards everyone, especially marginalized groups. Another issue that her case has kind of brought to light is how far is too far when it comes to true crime content creators, whether they be on YouTube or on TikTok, because there are very, very few out there that are actually in it for the right reasons. Now, what might those right reasons be? Well, you're telling that person's story because they no longer have a voice and you want to give a voice to the voiceless. You want to tell their story to prevent the same thing from happening to someone in the future, to offer whatever justice you can to the family members and friends and anyone else who loves that person. And hopefully, if you are gaining any kind of money from spreading awareness to these cases, you will have the opportunity to actually fund help for people who are actively trying to get justice for someone they love right now. Unfortunately, I could probably count on one hand how many content creators do it for that reason. Unfortunately, as much as a few of them desperately try, people like Kendall Ray, who have actually spoken to and been in the vicinity of people who are left behind after a murder case, who donates basically every penny that she earns towards trying to help victims of violent crimes and people who have gone missing or who have been sex trafficked. Unfortunately, true crime has now been oversaturated with people who are sending out bogus theories that have absolutely no backing, who are trying to encourage people to send nonsensical evidence to the police that actually ends up throwing wrenches in and tripping up the case and making it go on for even longer, because then they have to rehash everything they've already gone through. It's full of people who are claiming to be mediums, who are sitting here stating that, oh, I'm talking to her and she's still alive, or I'm talking to him, but he's talking to me from beyond the grave, and either giving families false hope or completely freaking them out for absolutely no reason. And the thing is, whether you think you're being helpful or not, there is a time and a place to discuss each case. Is it an active investigation? If it is, why are you covering it right now while it's still active? Have you been asked to by the family and friends? If so, continue. Are you doing it because if you're making money from this case, you are going to be donating all of it to the family for their legal fees? If you're saying no to questions like this and all you want to do is cover it for clout, or because in your opinion it's going to help the family, but you can't really explain how it's going to help the family, you need to take a step back and cover an older case, or just stop being part of the true crime community altogether, because this is getting kind of ridiculous at this point. So much has happened in this already completely messed up case, and in other cases like it, to trip everything up and make it even harder for the family. And there's been no reason for it. That's kind of the double-sided sword of the internet. It's a gift and a curse that everyone is involved, because while it can be great that people can spot things like the videos where you could see Gabby Petito's van on the side of the road, you have an equal and sometimes even larger amount of people out here just sharing nonsense about the case and about other people's cases. So I think that collectively the internet needs to sit down and really think about true crime content and why it is that you are covering true crime content. Are you in it to actually help anyone, or are you in it because it's making you rich or making you famous on the internet? This is all I have to say. This is not the video I was planning on creating. I'm going to be doing more fun gothic content very, very soon, but this was something that I found extremely important and something that I think more people need to be discussing, because we need to care more about victims, and we especially need to care more about marginalized groups and victims from those groups. So, with that being said, do something that makes you happy today, no matter what anyone else thinks about it, and I will see all of you again soon.